Welcome back to the Midlife Crisis. Just wanted to drop something I think is going to be quick. Who knows? But I'm watching this offshoot of the show Pop My Balloon. I think it's called The Speaker Room or whatever. And one of the young ladies that came on the show who didn't match, in all honesty, I thought she was kind of attractive. She's thicker, but not like, I wouldn't even call her fat. I mean, could she do a couple crunches and run a couple miles? Maybe, but I mean, who can't? But I thought she was fairly attractive. However, she didn't match, and she took exception to what one of the guys said. One of the guys that didn't match with her said to her that he popped his balloon because, his words not mine, he's looking for a bad bitch. And she said that she felt like the experience of the show was superficial. I think we need to understand a couple of things, okay? Writing everybody off as being superficial, I think, is a mistake. Because we're human beings. If you break things down scientifically, we have binocular vision, which means that over millennia, over however long that we've been on this planet, we've evolved to be able to look with both of our eyes straight ahead in the attempt or in the effort to be able to accurately assess, detect, and define those things that are right in front of us. It's how we hunt. It's how we gather things. It's how we survive. It's just how we've evolved. So as much as we may not want to acknowledge it, we kind of have to. And that's a wonderful thing about being human, and it's also a detractor for being human. Being human, we always want to be the best of ourselves. We always want to aspire for greatness. We always want to carry that hero mantra, that hero motif around with us, to be the best and always strive for the best and always, look for the best in others. But we do that a lot of times to the detriment to ourselves or at the expense of ourselves, because no one wants to be called superficial. So we do everything that we can do to avoid that title, to avoid that term. I don't want to be labeled as being superficial, so I'm not going to consider myself to be superficial. I'm going to look past certain things. I call bullshit. And I have to call bullshit for the scientific reasons that I said before. We all have a visual component to how we pick our mates. Now, standards are different for everybody. So you may have a person who specifically wants somebody who's, 5'8", got hair down to her shoulders, brown skin, C-cut breasts, 42 inches around the hips, and so on and so forth. You may have somebody who is that particular about who and what he wants to date. You may also have somebody who just says, I need somebody who doesn't look like they have a disease. You may also find somebody who just wants somebody who looks clean. Like, we all have different standards, but we have them. Because if we didn't, then we would be talking to the first person that we come across, regardless of how they look. And that doesn't happen, folks. Hold on one second, let me adjust. That's a bit better. That doesn't happen. Like, we don't all just attack and go after the first person that we talk to, because like I said, there's a visual component, whether or not, even if that visual component is male, female, it's visual. I mean, yeah, we can discuss sexuality in full detail, but it's still a visual thing. Does that one look like a female? Does that one look like a male? I'm attracted to female, so I'm going for the one that looks more like a female, and then you get into it however deep that you go. But I think to label somebody as superficial and then to dismiss them is a mistake, because I don't care what anybody says, you can't get to the deeper end of the water without first going through the surface. You just can't. There's no way for you to be inserted right into deepness. Not only that, but you're not walking down the street looking at somebody and saying, I bet they're deep, I would like to go and talk to them. It doesn't happen. And even if you did look at somebody to say, I bet they're deep, you're still looking. There's still some sort of a visual component that person is checking off for you in order for you to approach them. So I think we got to get past that. Like, I think we need to stop making it a thing to consider somebody superficial. It's just what their preference is. And then when you're talking about the context of the show, Pop My Balloon, understand, this isn't Pop My Conversation. This isn't Pop My First Date. This is Pop My Balloon. You're walking on to a show being evaluated, regardless of which side you're on. If you're part of the lineup for the show, or if you're part of the guests that are just walking in to see what's going on, you're being evaluated. And a lot of that, most of that, is visual, because you're on a show. You got, what, 30 seconds to talk to somebody? Yeah. That's why they tell you to dress to impress. Why? That visual component. So, and I've heard men and women on that show both say, oh, it didn't look like you dressed for the occasion. It's the visual component, folks. We can't necessarily invoke it when it's convenient for us. And I also think that what a lot of people are doing, which again, in and of itself is a mistake, we pacify ourselves to make ourselves feel passable. We look at ourselves in the mirror, and a lot of us, if not the majority of us, think, it's okay. I look all right. I'm passable. But we think that everybody else should feel the same way about that. You know, because I think that I might be a catch. I think everybody else around me should think that I'm a catch. And that's where the mistake is. You can feel like you're a catch, as much as you want to. But everybody else doesn't have to think like you. In fact, I don't even think you should, dangerous word to use, but I don't think you should think that everybody thinks like you. It doesn't work like that. When you're dating, you're basically fishing. And for anybody out there who's been fishing, you understand the type of fish that you catch depends on the lure that you use. Now, you might love using worms as a lure. You know, oh my God, I got a fat worm on a hook, but you're not catching the fish that you want to catch, because those fish may not eat worms. So what's that mean? If you're stuck on that worm being the lure, then either you just have to eat the fish that worm is going to attract, or you're gonna have to change your lure. So this is to everybody of every shape, size, color, body style, disposition, whatever. Understand, yeah, me, I'll be the first person to say it. I am a tall asshole. I'm 6'6", and all of it's full of asshole. You know, so to those people out there who enjoy, you know, bantering back and forth or going back and forth with somebody who has my personality, great. But if I'm trying to get a specific individual and she's like, I can't deal with assholes, guess what? I either have to stop being an asshole, or that's not the woman for me. And I think more people need to adopt that personality. If that person, going back to the show, or the young lady from the show, if that person looked at you and said, I'm looking for a bad bitch, obviously he doesn't consider you to be a bad bitch. So you now have a choice to make. You can either continue on doing what you're doing and in your own mind thinking you're a bad bitch, or if you really want that guy, you're gonna have to conform to what it is that guy wants. And I know it's a cringe statement that makes a lot of people kind of tense up a little bit, but it's true. I'm not saying or advocating or promoting that anybody should change for other people or based on what they want you to do. In fact, I'm the biggest opponent of that. Don't change who you are for anybody. Change who you are for you. But it does apply to the situation. If that's the man that she wants, and she knows that's the man that she wants, and right now she doesn't have what he wants, you got to get what you want. Like I said, if you want to catch that particular fish, guess what you got to do? You got to lure it into the boat however you can. You've got to draw that fish over to you however you can. And if your lure's not working, you're going to need to switch up your lure. That's common sense. That's just what you're going to have to do. If you don't care what fish that you get and you just want the fish that's going to be attracted to you, then cool. Put your line out there, see what bites. And whatever bites, you reel it into the boat. But if you're looking specifically for someone, you're going to have to do what you got to do. So like I said, getting back to her, she could change if she knows that's the guy that she wants. But if she doesn't think that that's the guy that she wants, move on. But don't label him or the experience or the show as being superficial. We're all superficial to a point. We all have to look at the surface before we can even get to what's deeper. So understand that. He just may not have been your cup of tea. He may not have thought you were a bad bitch. There could be a dude walking around the corner right now thinking that you bad as shit. So go get that guy. Or, like I said, the alternative, which nobody wants to talk about in the modern age, but it's the truth. Or if most of the people that you're coming in contact with, men, women, children, are not putting you in the bad bitch category, you might need to evaluate something, because it might be something that you're not doing where people aren't thinking of you as a bad bitch. Might be something that you're not seeing. Maybe something that you're not saying. It could be something about you. So even though you may feel that you're a bad bitch, may not be that thing. I liken it to this, and I'll end it on this note, which anybody who knows me will understand what note I'm ending it on. It's like being a fighter. You can think you're the baddest motherfucker on the planet. You can think that you are whooping everybody's ass on this planet. However, when you step in that cage, when you step in that ring, may not be the bad guy, may not be the baddest guy on the planet. So what's that mean that you need to do? Yeah, you lose one fight, you could have had a bad night. But if every time you get in there, everybody's whooping your ass, you need to go back to the gym and train. You need to change some things up about your fighting style, because it may not be what you think it is. Even though in your head it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, in actuality, it may not be.